Yes, let's talk about it indeed. Welcome back to another episode of Elaborate. I'm Jake Lloyd Bacon, and I am so happy that you have joined us for another collection of these great podcasts. We're learning, we're growing, we're doing it together. And speaking of together, I couldn't be happier to be joined this week by comedian, actor, and writer. Maybe you saw him on America's Got Talent. He made huge waves on that program. You've seen him on Comedy Central's Roast Battle and Corporate. Alex Hooper's on the podcast today. Hi, Alex.
Hey, Jake. Good to see you, man.
It's really good to see you here digitally. You're sort of, I know that every podcaster has been doing this for a year now, but you're the very first remote episode of Elaborate ever.
Cool. Well, I'm glad to be here. You know, I've been stuck on many islands in my time, so I'm used to having remote locations.
Sure.
I've been rescued more times than I can count. So this is a podcast rescue, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, I've been such a holdout because I felt like so much of, I mean, you do Achilles heel, which isn't wildly different from what I do here on Elaborate, and I feel like so much of getting to know somebody or connecting with somebody you already know is that like face-to-face kind of immediate interaction. And I was so stubborn of like, no, like I'm not going to do it remote. There's no point. And now it literally, the show's been on hiatus for a year. So I'm like, all right, This is just the new normal. So I'm diving back in. Happy to have you as the first guest back. I have high hopes for the remote working regardless.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you real quick, dude. I went through the exact same thing. I stopped my podcast when COVID first started because I was doing it in studio, and I just didn't want to. It didn't make any sense to invite people into a tiny room. Even as things started to get a little better, Los Angeles was still such a thunderdome that I was like, I can't. And I finally went to the digital thing too, and now I'm doing it remotely. And I mean, I will say it is nice. Like, I miss sitting down with somebody, but it is nice just to be in my own apartment.
Sure.
Like,
I mean,
doing it.
This is the very first episode of Elaborate in which I am in pajamas. I am rocking.
Right, and I would like to say, for those of you that can't see it, Jake still has his Christmas tree up.
Yes.
It is almost the end of January.
Yes.
So who knows what other kind of hoarding is being done in that apartment of his.
We put that shit up December 23rd. And so we figured we're going to keep it up for as long late as we should have put it up early. And it's this week. It's going to be in the next couple of days here. It's so nice. It's nice at night. It like illuminates the room. Listen.
Plus, you're giving your dog, every dog on your street is about to have a treat just because they're like, wait, I thought Christmas tree season was over. Oh my God, pee.
Yes.
You know?
So I have to say, for somebody that I don't know very well, we don't have a personal relationship. Holy shit, I've known you for a very long time.
Yes, you have.
Through a very bizarre, I don't even know, I want to say it was 2007 or 8, maybe?
I think 2008, I believe. I think that's right.
We met in Pittsburgh.
Correct.
On the set of Zack and Miri Make a Porno, the Kevin Smith movie. We like exchanged information there. I think we became like Facebook friends years ago. And I think when we got back to wherever our respective homes were at that time, we were both like, oh shit, we're both stand-ups. Mm-hmm. And there was that sort of connection. So I've known you since whatever that was, 2008, but I don't know you that well. In fact, I don't even know, like I was up, what the hell were you doing in Pittsburgh? First off, did you live there?
Yeah, so I actually wasn't even a comedian then. I didn't do any stand-up at that time. I didn't start doing stand-up until I moved to Los Angeles in 2000. Right. I moved to Los Angeles and started doing stand-up in 2009. I moved there at the very end of 2008.
We moved in at the same exact time. We both got to live at the exact same time.
Which is one of the things I think we were talking about, is that we were both going to go to LA, but I went to school in Pittsburgh. I went to Point Park. I grew up in Baltimore, and then I went to Point Park University. So I was finishing up, and then I stayed a little bit longer because I started to get random film work. Right. And then some of it I'd be principal, and then some of it, like Zack and Miri, I auditioned for the movie, didn't get in, but they were like, do you want to do extra work for it? Sure. And I just was like, I want to be on a Kevin Smith set and just see what that environment is like. And sure enough, we got to do 4 days with really fun people.
And
I mean,
man, so I actually drove up from Florida for that job to do that.
Oh my God.
I was living in Tampa, Florida at the time, and me and the girl I was with at the time drove up to do that as part of like an extended vacation. We're like, we'll go up, we'll do the movie, we'll do background stuff. And then like we'll just like see the sights, and we'll spend like an additional week in Pittsburgh. And it was in the middle of the winter, so we were like living in Florida. It was like, great, yeah, we'll go spend time in the snow. And it was just, we made it a vacation. But it's crazy because you're one of the only people, because the ex is no longer in my life for obvious reasons. But you're the only person in my life currently, until I really solidify that great friendship with Kevin Smith that's on the horizon. You're the only person who was legitimately present for what I consider my artistic awakening. You were there in the room. So I had been living in Florida and doing stand-up. I was touring. Some guys were kind enough to take me on the road with them when they would come through Tampa, and they would be like, oh, here's a comic who's kind of like doesn't fit in Tampa. And so I got like 5 other dates in Orlando or Jacksonville or wherever. And they'd be like, hey, you want to come with me for the next couple of weeks? I was like, yeah, great. So I was doing stand-up then, and I was doing like a ton of independent shitty student films, like one can imagine. And I had been on a ton of shitty University of Tampa film sets, right? But I'd never been on like a legit film set before. I went up and did Zack and Miri, and that first day walking into that gymnasium and just watching the moving parts and seeing everything work, that was the day that everything changed for me. That was the day I was like, oh, I'm not doing the right thing in my life. Like, I've never felt more at home. I was never more fascinated. I was never more inspired. Like, doing Zack and Miri, as much as it was just zany extra work, and they ended up doing a couple days of PA work on it because Milos, the assistant director, kind of became friendly with me because I was I was little the dude who, like, when they would send people back in holding, I would just hang out behind Video Village and like kind of quietly be in the shadows. Like that. But crazy. So you're one of the only people who was there for my artistic awakening, because it wasn't soon after that I was like, oh, I need to get out of Florida. I need to get to LA. I need to take this commute.
No, that like, was it just being around something so professional and so huge that you were like, okay, this is a vision that I want for myself? Like, did you want to direct after that? Or
so,
what part of it was so, I guess, inviting to you?
Right. And the real answer to the question is I'm not quite sure. And that's what makes it so great. It was sort of everything. And I never intended to be a film director. All I ever wanted to do was act and do stand-up. That was my whole life. And then eventually I moved out to LA, and the stand-up started to waver away. And I was like, well, I just want to concentrate on acting. And now I'm like, well, I just released my first feature in 2020. And now I'm like, all right, now I guess I'm directing another one. Like, so now I feel like the ball is sort of continuing to shift. But Zack and Miri, I think it was just like all of the moving parts. It was just seeing people do the things I've been watching terrible students do poorly for years. Yeah. Watching people do that professionally and seeing how it works. Meaning like not how a movie works, but like how it actually works. Like, but it was a weird, crazy experience. And I remember like you and I got stuck near each other for just I think the scene when they were, when Rogan and Justin Long were at the bar, and they would just improv for like 30 minutes at a pop. And I think we were just sort of stuck near each other, pretending to, exist and trying not to laugh. And
very much trying not to laugh. And dude, Justin Long was killing.
And he had the flu. Yeah. Do you remember that? And Brandon Routh making out with him with a full-on flu. I was like, geez Louise, that's commitment.
Yeah, right. That's not happening anymore. No more of that kind of stuff going on. But dude, that's Justin Long, the speed at which he was improvising. Seth Rogen couldn't keep up. And look, no, I'm not trying to throw shade on Seth Rogen at all. But like literally, it was Justin Long going joke, 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 joke. And Seth Rogen's going, like he couldn't match what Justin Long was doing. And if you had asked me before I watched that, who's going to kick an ass in this scene of improv, I for sure would have said Rogan.
Right.
You're telling me the Mac guy is going to come in here and outshine one of the biggest comedy stars in the world right now? Yeah, he did.
But man, it was a very bizarre experience. But out of it, I got to meet you, and again, it was more just ancillary. Like, hey, you're a character. You were being just as ridiculously over the top as I was on set there, just being kind of generally annoying and probably talking more than we should to people that we shouldn't be talking to. And I think we were drawn to each other on that day, in that moment. And ever since then, you've just sort of been a name in my social media life, right? You've been a guy,
Sure.
and I've been so happy to see that you went from that dude on my Facebook page to a dude on my TV. Getting to see you do, like, the first time I really started seeing you pop up and me being like, holy shit, it's Alex Hooper, was seeing you on Roast Battle and just being like fucking absolutely stoked. And it's crazy. Yeah, we moved out here the same year then, and I don't think I even realized that. But so you only started doing stand-up when you got out here. So in Pittsburgh, you went to school. What did you go to school for there?
For theater,
Okay.
mainly because I didn't know what else to do with my life, and I got a big scholarship to Point Park University, so it just made sense for me to go there to just just because I didn't know what else to do.
Sure.
But then I started getting those bit parts in movies, like I did Adventureland and this other one called Homecoming.
Right.
And so I joined SAG while I was still in college.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I either stay here and try to get in 2 movies a year with really bit parts, or I fucking go for it and go to LA and really try to make something of myself. And I was 23 years old. So I was like, look, I know people that have been to LA and they cannot get into the Screen Actors Guild to save their life. I'm already in.
Right.
Let's go. And I started doing stand-up like 5 months later out of boredom. A friend forced me into it. And the first time I did it, I was like, oh, this is it. Why didn't I start doing this years ago? I remember calling my mom, and it would have been like 1 a.m. back in like Maryland. And I remember going, Mom, this is it. I'm doing this for the rest of my life. This is everything I've ever been looking for. And from that day on, it's been just like 100 miles per hour. Let's go. So
you're from Maryland originally?
Baltimore,
or is that just where? Is that mom and dad still live back there, or just mom, or just dad?
Separately, but yeah, they still live back there.
Right on. And so you said you went to college, sort of not necessarily knowing what you want to do in the first place. Did mom and dad have any sort of insight for that, or was it like you clearly got the scholarship?
Yeah, I mean that was the big thing, right?
So you had the ability.
I went to a high school that was a magnet school, and I went there for acting and for theater. So then I was like, okay, I might as well just keep this up just because, it's the easiest thing I can think of to go get a degree in, and I don't know what else I want to do. And it basically was just a way for me to waste time. Right. Like, really, I've never done anything with my degree. I'm glad I took those classes. I'm glad. Pittsburgh, amazing city. I mean, honestly, so underrated. Such a beautiful place to live, such a fun place to live. And I really enjoyed being there. But if I had known, like, the crazy thing is, like, when I lived in Pittsburgh, I was a ducky tour guide for 3 years, right? On the duck boats. Yeah. So my job was literally to give tours of Pittsburgh, and they deployed from Station Square. Literally next to our deployment was a Funny Bone comedy club, and I never even once went inside it. I never even thought about it. And people would get off my tour, they'd be like, dude, you're great. So you do this and you hop over to the comedy club and do a set. And I was like, that'd be funny, right?
Right.
Wasn't on your radar. I never even put it together because I didn't know you could just go do stand up. Nobody tells you that.
Yeah, that is very, very real. I had a similar experience where it wasn't until I went to go see, my first stand up was on Long Island, where I'm from, and I went to go see. I think the very first stand up show I ever saw was Robert Kelly, and
he's great.
It was at Governor's on Long Island. And it was like literally going there by myself to see, Robert Kelly, who I like saw on Comedy Central. I was like, oh yeah, I want to go see this guy. And it was one of those things where I was like, I didn't even realize you could just go to a comedy club and even see a show. Forget do comedy.
Right?
Like, it wasn't even on my radar that you could actually go pay a ticket, sit in the crowd, and be there when the guy tells the jokes, right? That wasn't even on my radar.
That's what's so crazy is, so I saw a stand-up show when I was 14 years old. I bought tickets to see Dave Chappelle at Towson University.
Right.
So it's 1999. Dave Chappelle's home going to see. Dane Cook opens for him. So as a 14-year-old kid,
99,
I'd never heard of Dane Cook, but I'm going nuts. I didn't go to another stand-up show until I moved to Los Angeles 9 years later.
Wow.
And then I went to the Improv, and before I even did stand-up, and I was like, man, this is so cool. Like, I would love to be able to do this. But again, when you're watching people on stage in like a professional club, you don't you just think like, oh, well, they have something that I don't. They know something I don't.
Right.
Clearly, there's a reason why they're up there. Nobody tells you, oh, just go start going to open mics and you can just do this too.
Right. And so that experience is exactly what I had at Governor's, where literally I was there by myself and I met like a couple of the people who were just like comedy nerds who were starting stand up. And they're like, oh yeah, there's an open mic at this thing. And I was like, open mic, like you just go and do material. And I was like, I was always obsessed with stand up as a kid. I was always obsessed with stand up as a teenager. Right. And it was just sort of like, yeah, I'll do that. And I went and I did it. And it wasn't like super fulfilling in that sense, but I was like, all right. And then I moved to Florida, and it wasn't until I got a job working at the Improv in Tampa that I was just watching local comics that were awful on a weekly basis, hosting. That I was like, oh no, wait a minute. Like, yeah, obviously you could just do this. But honestly,
dude, I tell people that all the time.
Right.
Anyone goes, I want to do comedy. What should I do? I'm like, go watch an open mic.
Yeah.
Don't even sign up. Just go sit in a coffee shop or a bar where people are trying to tell jokes, and you will realize how not superhuman this profession is.
Yeah, it's there's no better confidence boost than watching a open mic with a bunch of comics who are not going to be there in 2 months.
100%. And I tell the same thing to people who are like, I don't know, it just seems like it's really hard to succeed. It's like, dude, there are so many shitty, horrible comedians that are making careers and names for themselves and doing fine. Don't look at Chris Rock to be like, man, I'll never be able to do that. Look at someone who you go, that person, I don't even think that person's funny. And they're have an hour-long special. Look at that person and go, well, if I don't think they're funny and I think I am, then that's my inspiration right there, because that person's clearly already successful.
I like to think that I was that person for about 10 years for other people. People were like, this guy's doing stand-up? This guy's getting work? I could fucking do this if this asshole's up here telling me dumbass fucking comic book jokes. But anyway, so did you dig stand-up as a little kid at least? Like, even though you never thought about it, and was that like, because obviously you're a character, you've always been a character, you've got hired to do to do duck tours, you had to be kind of a character, I'm sure.
Sure. Yeah. I used to watch it all the time. When I was a kid, I used to rent like stand-up specials from the video store. Right. Like I specifically remember like reciting Andrew Dice Clay stuff when I was 12 years old.
Same.
Thinking it was the greatest thing in the entire world. Like I remember when he said, he was like, why do you wrap a hamster in electrical tape? So it doesn't explode when you fuck it. And I was just like, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And so
the amount of times that I did the cigarette, like as a kid, I thought that was the coolest thing. Oh God, idiot.
I love it. But I used to watch it all the time. I'd watch Comedy Central. I'd watch Premium Blend. I'd watch stand-up on HBO. I'd watch it anywhere I could. And it never even occurred to me to just go do it. Right. And thank God for my friend Dale, who was already doing a little bit. And he was like, Alex, I know how to do that. I know how to get you into a base level thing to start this.
That's great.
And literally he booked me on a show, and I had 2 weeks to write at 6 minutes and get ready. Right. And there was no like going back. It was like, you have to do this now. And man, it was the best. That's why now that I get to be a part of this world, like, you know, I mentioned Dave Chappelle's the first person I ever saw live. I told him that story after he watched me at a TV taping. Like the fact that I even get to say that at all is insane.
Well, that's another thing that's crazy about stand-up. And I know I've mentioned it on this show before with other stand-ups that I've had on. And that is like, one of the reasons stand-up is the most unique artistic outlet is that the first week you start, your coworkers are the biggest names in comedy.
Yeah.
Because again, my first paid gig ever was for Louis Black, opening for Louis Black, because they need that 5-minute, you know, fucking MC or host or wherever you are. And it's like, I got paid $50, I think, for like the tune, you know, whatever it was. But it's like, I have no right being on the stage at all, yet Louis Black is the guy that's coming up after me. And it's one of those things where it's like, the second you're in it, you're immediately surrounded by everybody that you love and all your heroes. And I can't think of another, there's no like, when you get your first acting gig, it's in a crappy little indie movie or a student film, and you're not like, Brad Pitt doesn't show up to do a scene with you, you know, like it's not the same way in any other creative industry. I don't know, maybe bands have a similar thing where it's like you get to open for like a big band, maybe kind of similar.
Possibly, but
even
I mean,
then,
still like no, because I mean, if they're really doing well, they can't have some super shitty
sure,
opening band.
Sure,
you know?
Yeah.
I mean, there's something about comedy where people like it doesn't matter sometimes if you're bad at it, as long as they didn't buy the ticket to see you. Like if there's someone in the beginning or the middle of the show where they're like, I didn't really like that guy, they're like, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
I paid to see Ali Wong, not to see Jake Lloyd.
Right.
So they quickly, as soon as that headliner comes up, they forget about everything else that happened before, and they don't care anymore.
Yeah. Yep.
You know?
Yeah. So when you called your mom and you were like, "This is it," what was her reaction?
Oh, she was very happy and very tired.
Was she always like kind of supportive of the creative wandering that you were doing in college, or was there any pressure to be like, pick a thing?
She was definitely supportive of me doing something creative, but I was also such a mess because I just couldn't get my life together and I didn't know what I wanted. And when you don't have any purpose whatsoever and you're just drifting, you tend to just let all the bad stuff kind of pile up and coagulate within you. And it wasn't good for me. So when I finally said, Mom, I found something that I really, really want to do, like she was 100% supportive. And since then, I've basically proven to them so many times that this was the right move, because I'm lucky that my parents, they were like, oh, you want to be a comedian? Well, that's fun. That's cool. Go do whatever if you can do it, do it. Because I have so many friends, and I'm sure you do too, who, if you tell your parents that, they're like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You are going to go to medical school. You're going to be a civil engineer. You know, that's what we were paying for college for, not for this off chance. But the thing is like, they saw something in me. They saw the spark.
Right.
And there's no way they were going to try to take something away from me that I had never had in my life.
What? So you said two things there that give me two other questions. The first thing is, what did they do? What did they do for their careers?
My mom and stepdad are lawyers, and my dad does like general construction, remodeling of like shopping centers and shit.
Right
like
on.
That.
Are they also are they hammy people? Are they performers in their own rights? Are they artistic?
My mom is very loud and very theatrical in everything that she does. I come from a very artistic family. My dad is not at all, but he is so sarcastic and so like matter of fact at the same time that I ended up a perfect mix of both of their personalities. I have the loud and just very just like out there personality from my mom, but then I have super biting quips from my dad.
Sure.
And that's what created what you see before you.
Yeah, I'm curious because I always feel like whenever parents are super supportive about a child in the arts, I always tend to find that it's because a lot of them enjoy living vicariously through them. Like I feel like there are members of my family who, like, and my sister who's a lawyer, she was literally like, oh, I actually wanted, like, I had interest in acting, and for me, being a lawyer was the most like reasonable profession where you kind of get to do that. You get to perform. You get to stand up in front of a judge and a jury and you get to like
recite speeches.
Yeah,
like, there's
and
a lot to it. Yeah.
So I feel like she was always super supportive of because I was also like you, kind of lost, not sure what I want to do. I did the whole like, oh, I want to be a musician. I want to be a stand-up. Oh, I want to be an actor. I want to be an artist. And like I didn't. I was 20. I think honestly that. Shoot 2007 or 8 at Zack and Miri when I realized like, oh no, I need the film industry is where my heart is. I was 25, 6 at the time, 7. So it wasn't until even around there that I had any inkling of like, oh, an actual path. Because I was like you, where you were like, oh, nobody said you could just do stand up. That was the way I was even as an actor. When I graduated high school, people were like, what do you want to do? I was like, oh, I want to be an actor. Like, oh, what are you doing to do that? I was like, I don't know. How do you do that? I don't know. I guess I'm going to go to a shitty community college and then meander until how long it takes. But
exactly. I mean, you have to do something. If you don't know, like you have to try anything, and people are going to ask you those questions like that. And it's kind of like a shitty thing to ask somebody at that age. Cause like, you're like, hey, 17-year-old, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? It's like, all I want to do right now is smoke weed and watch a movie. So I don't know what I'm going to be wanting to do when I'm in my 50s.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what I do with the rest of my life, but the next 2 days, the new Assassin's Creed just came out. So I have a feeling that's what I'm going to be doing on the immediate horizon.
My time is taken. Thank you.
Now, when you were in that sort of, the one that I just described in my own, that sort of creative meandering where you were going to college, but you didn't know what you want to do, when you said you had a hard time getting your life together, was it just what you wanted to do, or were there other factors there?
No, it was everything. I mean, I have a very serious like history with depression and just basically just general malaise toward life as a whole.
Yeah.
I was very angry as a child. I would act out. I would rebel in any way I could. I basically thought the world was against me. So I did everything I could to be against the world and try to bring everyone down to the level that I thought I was.
Right.
So I was just like a shitty fucking person to be around.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, the good things started happening to me, especially like this is still when I'm in Pittsburgh, really. Like all of a sudden, like I start getting these little roles in things, and I got a toxic person out of my life, and suddenly I'm on film sets. And I mean, the thing is, the first time I was ever on a film set was Adventureland. I got cast in like a one-day role as a park employee. And so I'm like, oh, the guy who just directed Superbad is now making this movie that I get to be in.
Right.
I'm on set with Kristen Stewart and Jesse Eisenberg and Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig. Like, I was like, oh, fuck. Am I still going to be depressed?
Right. Yeah.
Like, how could I? Like, what am I talking about? This is everything I wanted. And then little by little, like those things started to come to fruition. And I started to realize that this was a possibility. I mean, I remember I did the table read for Adventureland. Before I was cast, they had me come in and read a bunch of random roles for the table read. And then literally afterwards, I was sitting in a room with all these people going, this is insane. They told me they were giving me a part. And I remember I went back to my car and I just screamed. I just sat there just going like,
right.
Thinking like, how did this happen? I got kicked out of school to do this part on this little TV show. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of grabbing life by the seat of my pants. And all of a sudden now I'm in this movie. So whatever I'm doing, I'm just going to keep going in this direction.
When you say that you were shitty to be around and you like to bring people down to your level, were you a bully?
Not so much a bully, I was, but more to myself than anybody else. I would just if people were happy, I couldn't handle it. So
oh man, I feel like my girlfriend has said that to me about me so many times.
Yeah.
Like that's not a good character trait.
It's not. And it's a common issue where somebody would be like, man, I'm in such a good mood. I'd be like, don't you know that there's millions of kids all over the world that are making your shoes and don't have any food? And they'd be like, Jesus Christ. All right.
There's an episode of Comedians in Cars, and there's a line from it that has resonated with me more than anything I've seen on TV in a while. And it's what's his name? Sebastian Maniscalco, I think. Mm-hmm. And he's in this gorgeous car. Yeah, he's in this gorgeous car, and they're like driving down the PCH with Jerry, and he's like, "Come on, look at this, Jerry! Like, how do you not like this? Look at this mountain in front of you. Look at this ocean to your left. This beautiful car. This beautiful day. Like, how do you not like this?" And Jerry goes, "Because you see all these people, they're all having a good time. They're happy, and that ruins it for me." and that to me, man, it resonates with me so much. And it's like I don't understand why I am that way. And it's just this genetic thing you're just born with.
Though.
Oh, so
I did such a huge shift in my personality.
Really? You've been able to shake it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if anyone who knows me now, when I talk about how this way I used to be, they're baffled because they're like, they only know me as this, like, bottle of positivity, just dropping sprinkles of joy everywhere I go. And I'm always in a good mood. And I'm always like, no matter what happens to me, I'm like, who cares? Whatever. Let's just have fun. Let's enjoy life. Let's spread love. And people are like, how did you get this way? And it took it's a constant work. It's always constantly thinking about how can I be a person that people want to be around? How can I be anyone that I would want to spend time with? Because I wasn't for so many years. I was such a dick face. Yeah. And so now I'm like, I'm doing everything I can to make people feel good when I spent years making them feel bad.
Right. Yeah. For me personally, I have not been able to shake it, so to speak. I like you though. I manage, and I try to kind of approach it at a day-to-day, moment to moment basis at sometimes. But I also feel like sometimes it's just a matter of getting fucking older, because I also feel like, I probably I'm assuming this is a leap here, but like one of the reasons you were that way, and one of the reasons I've always been that way, is just confidence in your own self. Is just like you said, like You thought that like you held yourself down probably because you assumed you weren't worth it any shit.
Oh, I hated myself.
And so
yeah.
And so as you get older, I think you start to just know who you are. You start to understand the space that you take up. And you're comfortable in it to an extent. Obviously, good days and bad days. For me, my depression is very much that roller coaster style where like, you know, I'll go 2 weeks and I'm just like the worst person to be around. And then, you know, like there's no reason for it. It just kind of happens. But at some point you just sort of become confident in the space you take up. And I think it becomes easier to just not be so shitty to people or not be so shitty to yourself, which leads to the aforementioned.
I think patience has a lot to do with it too. As you get older, you're not like when you're 24 and all you want to do is take over the world. Like you're like, I'm going to go to LA and I'm going to act in all the biggest movies. And I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. All you want. And then when it doesn't happen, you get frustrated and you start to like tear yourself apart thinking like, well, what am I doing wrong? Why is it happening to that guy, but not me? What do I need to do? And eventually you start running your own race and you start to stop thinking about what everybody else is doing and how other people are taking things from you because they're not. They're all doing their best.
They are doing their path. Like I've said it on. We talk about on this show a lot. Obviously, I sit with a lot of creatives, and we talk about sort of like achieving whatever success is these days. Like, what does fucking success even mean in 2021 at this point? Like, how many Twitter followers you have? I sure the fuck hope not. I don't think that's it. I think everybody's success is different, and because of that. I'm always that way where people constantly tell me what I should be doing for my career, like all the time. And I'm sure it happens to you all the time where it's like, what you got to do is you got to do this because my friend did this or because I did this and it really worked out for me. And I'm like, cool, but I'm not you. So if I apply, it's, you know, it's literally just, it's makeup. Everything is makeup. Your art is your art. And somebody else's art is their art. And they might put makeup on them that fits their complexion and fits their eye color and makes them look best. But if you put their makeup on you, it's not you anymore. It's gonna be completely different. And so I feel like you have done a really exceptional job of carving your own path, doing things a unique way, because I have followed you throughout the years and I have seen sort of, you know, the way that you've kind of adapted and changed, and I feel like you've become a much more honest version of yourself. At least just from what I know of you. Again, like, you know, I don't know you on a super personal level, but even just through the social media, you know, facade, I feel like you've become a more authentic version of who you were 10 years ago, or when you started doing stand up.
Well, definitely. I mean, the thing is, I stand-up taught me how to be myself. And it's just, stand-up is such a deep reflection on who you are and your relationship to the world around you. And the deeper I got into it and the more I like really let myself like be free and play at like music festivals and all these other things, I started to realize like there is a super fun person contained within me that's not afraid to be expressive and to wear whatever I want and do whatever I want. Be whoever I want. And so when I just lean into the things that I want to do, like you were saying a second ago, like you can't, other people are going to be like, you should do this, you should do this. If I have to, the amount of times I have to explain to someone that I don't want to be on TikTok is crazy to me. And they'll go, Dallas, you don't understand. You can have millions of followers. It doesn't make me happy. I don't care.
Literally, this is why this show exists. It's why my entire podcast network exists, is because I was so sick of agents and managers and other artists and actors and comics being like, you got to get your social media numbers up. You got to vlog. You got to whatever the hot thing is at the time. You got to fucking,
get on Vine, dude. Those 6 seconds are going to change your life.
And like, you got to get yourself out there if you want to succeed in the today's version of what this industry is. And I'm like, dude, I just want to act and maybe tell some jokes, and then maybe also make some movies. Like, that's all I want to do. But I understand, though, there is also a game to be played. They're not 100% wrong. They're just mostly wrong. And so, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do what's for me. I was like, so you know what? I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy connecting with people. You know what? I have a history in podcasting. I was podcasting way back then in Florida in the early 2000s. With friends of mine, when it was first a thing, I was like, all right, I get this. This is a world I understand. So I'll do this, and this will be my version of whatever that is, and this is my path. Whether it leads to the sort of reactions and responses that other people's desires for me, was kind of irrelevant, to be honest with you, because it's about
for sure
the thing that I want to do.
Most of the things I've done, Jake, if I had asked somebody, should I do this or not, they would be like, fuck no, you shouldn't do that.
Especially
That's
comics,
insane.
especially other comics. Because
especially like, well, you saw me. So like you said, like, especially you started seeing me on TV, like with Roast Battle and stuff like that. Anyone who watched Roast Battle could tell that I was playing a very different game than everybody else on there.
Sure.
And I remember when I showed the director, I'd already talked to Jeff Ross about like what this character stuff I want to do, and wearing these weird outfits. And when I showed the director goes, "Why do you want to wear this?"
Right.
And I was like, "Because it's funny."
Yeah.
Who cares? What do you care? He's like, are you sure you don't want to? Like, nobody else is doing anything like this. I was like, yeah, I know. I'm
what's
trying
great?
To stand apart here.
It's also it's there's this thing that I have and it's funny actually. I very recently was sort of exploring this. I took up in 2020. Listen, listeners haven't chatted with me in a year, so this is for the listeners too. I try to retake up journaling a little bit more and doing better of writing more like actual with a pen, not just notes in my phone, which is what I used to do, laying in bed at 2:00 in the morning. And I was just recently writing about this, like the desire to be cool and how it creates this ridiculous like inauthenticity. And there's nothing that when I was young, the idea of that like person who's not trying and that's how they're cool that was like the pinnacle. Like, I want to be one of these people who just like doesn't give a fuck.
I
don't want to care. Yeah.
Cigarette.
Now,
that's the coolest person I've ever seen.
Those people, I fucking hate them now. Like with the worst. I can't stand somebody whose Twitter profile is like whatever. Period. Like, no, asshole. Try. You're not cool. You're not cool because you're not trying. You're just an asshole. Like, tell me why I should care about you. Tell me who you are. Tell me literally anything about you every moment you get the possibility to do so. Whether it's the way that you look, whether it's the words you fucking tweet or say or Vine or fucking whatever you're doing. And I feel like that's sort of that. It's sort of where like, I can only imagine the director, producer of that show, and other comics who were in that competition with you being like, oh gosh, like, is like this dude is gonna embarrass himself. Like, cause they're all desperate to be cool.
Of course.
They're all desperate
thing, right?
to,
is they kind of think it like they're looking out for me and they're all worried that like, it's like I have people all the time go, I don't know how you wear the stuff that you wear. It's like confidence. What do you mean? You could like, you don't think you could wear a fur coat if you wanted to? You look like a Viking. You would look badass if you put on one of my coats. And they're like, I just couldn't do it. Literally, I put on these outfits and it gives me this swagger that I otherwise maybe have to really dig out of me in other ways. But when I walk on stage in pajamas and a fur coat, chucking lollipops to an audience, flipping my tail, you're going to tell me that I'm not confident? There's no way I couldn't feel that way. And that just made it more fun.
Total sidebar. And this might be a long shot. Have you ever heard of or played, it's a trivia party game for like, it's a video game. I think it's on PlayStation. It's called Knowledge is Power. Have you ever heard of this?
Mm-mm.
Okay, there's a character. It's this like really cute, like stop motion-y sort of appearance, but it's just a trivia game, right? And I play it with Alexandra, my girl, all the time. And there's a character in it that every single time I see them, I go, oh shit, Alex should sue for copyright infringement because this is gimmick infringement. I'm actually, if you're listening to this, Google, I'm trying to think of what to Google. I think if you Googled Knowledge is Power Magician, I think that's the character's name. I'm gonna text this to you right now, or I'll send it to you on our Twitter.
Hesitant.
Wait, no, dude, you got to see this. Shut up, Twitter. Yeah, I don't want to update my email. Just freaking let me send a message to Alex Super.
I'm doing this on my phone, so I'm not sure it's gonna be able to come through right now. You won't
be able to see it on Twitter. Oh, damn it! Now I really wish I could show you. Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's the future. We can just do it this way.
We're looking at each other, Jake.
Yeah. All right. I found him. This character, I don't know if you could see him. Come on, exposure. Work for me here.
It's so bright.
It's just so bright. No, it's not working. All right, I failed miserably. This was a failed experiment. In any case, the dude is decked out in an all rainbow jumpsuit with a fanny pack, a rainbow magic hat. His hair is bright pink. and he's got a giant pink mustache that looks exactly like yours does right now. And every time I see it, I laugh my ass off and I go, "Oh shit, it's fucking Alex Hooper in a video game." But yeah, man, like
I get
the
Murder
style's
Face
great.
a lot. For anyone who wants to know what I look like, I get William Murderface a lot from Metalocalypse.
Right.
If you want to go down the path of what I look like, it would take hours. So,
but man, I fucking love it, man. You're again, you're truly authentic, and I feel like the journey that you've been on, at least from what I've seen from my point of view, it's been spectacular because you've sort of you're this fucking machine. I feel like your output is just absolutely incessant. Like there's always something. You're always working on something. Is there any input? Is it like, do you watch shit? Do you like,
oh yeah,
because I feel like every time I turn the corner, there's something going on for you.
Well, before 2020, I would literally just go out and do stand up 6 nights a week. If I would tour as much as I could. I would hit every single show. I would just be out in the world all the time. Right. And my input was from watching live comedy, watching concerts, going to festivals, things like Burning Man, things like that. Like that's where my input was really coming from.
Right.
I was watching how all these other people were expressing themselves in these totally radical ways and going, okay, I'm going to take a little piece of that. I'm going to take a little piece of that, and I'm going to merge it all back into myself and figure out what I could build from the ground up. This past year, I've watched way too much TV, as I think probably all of us have, being shoved in our homes nonstop. Yeah. But I still was like, I needed an outlet beyond stand-up when I didn't have it. So I had to start working on other things. And I was lucky this past year, that I had America's Got Talent again, and I got to focus on that. And that took up a lot of my time. I released a special that I had shot stuff the year before.
There's one thing actually I really want to talk to you about. And it's another instance I'm realizing today that you've inspired me a lot more than I even gave you credit for.
Glad to do so.
This past year, I've been dealing, like a lot of us do as we get older. I've been dealing with my ever changing body, like a teen girl in middle school. I'm getting older and my metabolism is just not where it is. I'm struggling. You can see I'm like a B cup now. And I'm struggling to find motivation to like get out of the house. Like I recently have re-picked up cycling. At one point I was a huge cyclist, and so I bought a cheap bike and I kind of Franken biked something together for myself to start riding. But even now, like it sits in the garage and I'm like, getting myself to do it every day. It's kind of a struggle. You have been consistently posting these slacklining videos. And every time you post one of these, I am just like, oh fuck, I gotta go do something. I gotta get out. Cause this shit is magic to me. Like, I don't know how like the level of like time and like zen that you must put in to be able to do what you do on these fucking videos, is like exactly the shit that I'm trying to harness. For those who don't know, slacklining is essentially not tightrope walking, right?
Yes.
Like it's
that's a great way to put it. Actually, not tightrope walking. It's you're on a 1-inch piece of webbing that is like tied between 2 trees or poles or whatever it may be, and you walk on it and bounce on it. But
it's slack. It's hanging. It's not tight in any capacity. It's like it's loose.
You can like it moves all around and up and down. And the thing, and that's the reason I kind of fell in love with it, is I started doing it about almost 3.5 years ago, and I saw people doing this thing, and I was like, wow, I want to be able to do that so bad. So I just started kind of trying it and working my way up. But what I love about it is you have to flow with this line. It moves under you based on what your movement does. So you need to learn how to be in this perfectly focused and meditative state where no matter how it moves underneath you, you don't get thrown off of it.
Right.
And it's one of those things where, just like stand up, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And the more you understand how it works, like, my relationship to the line that I'm standing on, we're not a line and a human. We are one thing now that's moving and flowing together. And once you really understand that and your brain and body can react to it, it just becomes so beautiful and peaceful up there. And I just put on music, like soft, like, really beautiful ambient stuff, and just kind of, or sometimes I go like hard and like have super fast beats, and I'm just like bouncing around going crazy. But it has made everything in my life better.
The way that you just described that, man, I totally get it. One of the reasons why I love cycling, and obviously it's not as much of a physical, feat as slacklining, but like, is because I'm on a bike, I'm flying down a road, generally in this area in Burbank, residential streets and busy streets. I got to have both hands on. I got to be paying attention. So I can't be on my phone. I can't be concerned with what's fucking happening on Twitter or what's been going on in politics. I can't be doing anything. I got headphones on. I've reconnected with music that I haven't listened to in 2 decades. Just because, where we don't drive anymore. So I don't want to listen to music, and it's become somewhat the closest thing to meditation that my brain can muster. Cause it forces my brain to calm down and slow down instead of like even when I try to meditate, oh my God, it's like me trying to meditate is my nightmare. They say that your hell is personal to you, whatever you make it. If I die and go to hell, it's gonna be like, all right, you're gonna be meditating for all of eternity. I'm gonna be like, no, just stuck in my own brain.
Can I ask you why you struggle with it so much?
Man, I generally notice that whenever I've attempted to meditate, I find anxiety creeps over more than anything else, and I work myself up into frenzies. I work myself up into these. I'm not going to say that they're full blown panic attacks, because those are really few and far between for me. But if we're not redlining, sometimes I get to the orange. And I don't know.
I'll tell you what the answer is, dude. I mean, not the answer, but
sure, of course.
Meditation, I was scared of it for so long. I was like, no, I have an active mind and my brain's always firing 1,000 synapses per second. Like, here we go. There's no way I'm going to be able to sit still. Slacklining kind of got me to be able to focus and sit still and start really concentrating on my breath and my body and what's going on inside it. So I started meditating probably a couple of years ago, like very consistently. And dude, the thing is like, it's practice. It is 100% practice. Yeah. And anytime somebody sits there like, dude, I sat for like 2 minutes, I couldn't do it. It's like, right. Yeah. Well, you're not, dude, if I give you a basketball, you're not just going to hit a 3-pointer right away.
Right. Yeah.
Everything you want to do in this world takes practice. And the more you just sit with yourself and breathe and just really try to just like put it all in yourself and kind of let everything else fade away, you just get better at it. Right. And what I find my trick for myself for meditation that it helps me so much is I work out before I meditate, so my body gets physically exhausted. Even if it's a matter of just like, okay, I'm just gonna get on the ground, I'm gonna do 50 push-ups right now. I do the 50 push-ups, then I'm like, okay, now is the perfect time for me to sit on the ground, close my eyes, set a timer for 10 minutes from now, so I know not to open my eyes until those 10 minutes are up, and just sit there and breathe. And get control of my breath.
That might be the best advice that I've heard, and I've talked to a lot of people about trying to get meditation under control. For me, that might be the best advice, because you're right. I can imagine. Shit, I should piggyback the two. When I get back in from a 40-mile bike ride, I feel like that's that's the best time, probably.
Dude, perfect time, because then your brain is moving. You're woken up, which is what you're doing. You're not trying to put your brain to sleep. You're trying to wake it up. Yeah. And so in that case, the biggest thing that I find with people that start trying to meditate is they're like, I just feel like it feels like forever when I'm in there. I'm like, I know, but that's why I'm telling you, set a timer, even if it's just 5 minutes in the beginning. Yeah. 5 minutes.
Work your way up to larger intervals. Yeah,
totally. And give yourself that time though, and just appreciate the fact that you just get to be still and not worry about shit for a couple of minutes. And when that timer goes off, I always go, I know I did my time, and I just feel better for the rest of the day.
That's fantastic. I love that. And so there's got to be a little bit of that that muscle that you flex. I don't know if that's the right metaphor for that for meditating, but has to be some part of that lends itself to slacklining for you, because it is sort of that Zen. I've seen videos of you trying to do it blindfolded, not trying, successfully doing it blindfolded. It really is astounding.
Slacklining made everything in my life better. I'll just say that straight up.
Wow.
Because it taught me how to focus. It taught me how to be okay with my body and myself, but it also brought me really in tune with everything that was going on inside me. Like if I can like narrow down what parts of me are not doing as well, or like I might have to like really focus on more. Where do I need a little bit of like extra massaging or something like that, because I spend so much time in a physical state of that, like while it's like it is relaxation for me, but it's also I'm very physically engaged and mentally engaged while I'm doing it.
I can imagine that it's one hell of a workout by the time it's all said and done.
Sure it is. And the reason why people are like, man, you have like abs. I'm like, yeah, because of that. Like my core is great because of it. But really, like it just allowed me to just chill in every situation and be able to just give you my time. Be able to look someone in the eye without just looking away during the whole conversation because I'm uncomfortable or something.
Right. Yeah. Also, talk about the literal representation of the very popular metaphor of like, oh, you get back down, you just got to get back up again. Like it's literal. Like the only way you're going to succeed at slacklining is by falling off a bunch and forcing yourself to do it again in the 100%. Most literal of sense. It's not even like,
if you're not falling, you're not learning. And that applies to every single area of your life. And take falling as metaphorically as you want to do it. But really, and that's the big thing, is that you have to keep trying it. And you just have to just keep forcing yourself to get back up and get better. And honestly, the key to life is balance. You need balance in all areas of your life. So if I can physically be balanced on something, then I can take that to all other areas within my world and apply those same principles of how to find balance. That way I'm not just like, I'm not partying 100% of the time, and I'm not just chilling 100% of the time. I work just as hard as I play just as hard as I work. I do everything thinking about a total balance within my life, and it helps everything.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. The way that you put that with balance. Have you ever heard of Martin Short's like grades that he gives himself?
No.
He's got like 8 and I'm gonna butcher them. He's got like 8 categories, right? And he's got like like work, leisure, finance, family, romance, and physical. Like physicality. Maybe a 7, I don't know, or I'm missing a couple. But in any case, he like gives himself like a letter grade quarterly or whatever it is, however anyone decides, for each one, so that he can kind of see like, okay, like, yeah, maybe I'm working a ton, maybe my finances are in order, but man, I'm being honest with myself, I haven't been a really good family man, or I haven't, my health, my physical health isn't quite what it needs to be. And it allows him to sort of level things out and consistently work on different facets. And that reminds me of that, because of the way that you mentioned balance. It seems to be that way where we all only have a certain amount of hours in the day. We all only have a certain amount of energy. And that's something I've dealt with my entire life, is I've spread myself way too thin. I overpromise. I love helping people. I really do. I want everybody that I know to succeed. I love supporting my friends. I love supporting our artists and people that I know. And because of that, I tend to consistently overpromise. I will be like, yeah, I can help you with that thing. And then like 5 days, 6 days, 2 months, 7 months goes by, and they're still waiting on something from me. And so I'm terrible with time management. And I'm working on all this stuff pretty actively, but like I've been terrible with time management. And with that, and with finding that balance and figuring out how to allocate those finite, energy points, so to speak, to all of those different facets, whether it be your health or, your mind, physical health, mental health. But it does sound great, though. I really like the way that slacklining has done that for you. I am hoping that while maybe not as much of a physical feat to overcome, I'm hoping that cycling, getting back into that, sort of lets me recover some of that. Because even in the first couple months of doing it, of getting back on the horse, I literally, my whole life, man, when I was living in Florida, all I did was bike. If I wasn't doing stand-up or working on films, I was cycling. I moved out to LA, and all my bikes got stolen. And
I get stolen here too.
And it sent me into like, it was so much more to me. It was like symbolic for me. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, they stole my bikes. It was like literally a part of me that was taken in a way.
And
and I just never rode again after that. And that was like, I think my bike got stolen in 2011. So it's been almost a decade since I've ridden on a bike. So for me, I'm like, I'm trying to recover that part of me that once was.
I encourage everyone, like I've taught a lot of people how to slackline. I've gotten a lot of people into it to the point where they bought their own slack lines and stuff like that.
Is it, but really, is it just a ratchet strap?
Basically a basic setup that you like buy online.
Right.
Like if you don't want to do a whole like actual like rigging system, like there are other ways you can do it, but the super basic ones are just a ratchet system. Yeah. It's really easy.
Because it looks like that. It looks just like like you said, like 2 inches, an inch. How wide is the slack?
I have a 1 inch and a 2 inch. So I play on both. The 2 inch is longer and bouncier, and the 1 inch is just, it's a different feeling. Sure. But I encourage everyone, just go out and play. You don't have to do this. You just, go ride a bike, go play golf, go play basketball, go roll down a hill, just go run through the forest, but just get outside every day and treat yourself to at least 20 to 30 minutes of just uninterrupted, I'm in the world time, and just experiencing and intaking the sunshine, the birds, the trees, the people around you. That's what I love about slacklining. Is like, one of the things is like, I'm just in a park and there's a couple next to me, and this guy's practicing the guitar on a blanket, and he's trying to play Wonderwall, and I'm trying to tune him out because his voice fucking sucks, and I know that girl's not going to fuck him anyway. But there's a mother over here and she's playing with her kids, and then there's people over here and they're playing soccer, and I'm just part of it.
People out walking their dogs, and I actually know.
Looking at me like, what the fuck is this guy doing walking on this rope?
Right. I feel like I feel like I know the park from your videos, and it is one of those parks that I thoroughly enjoy being at, because it is very much an LA park. It is very much a like, everybody is there doing a wide variety of different things, and they're all fantastic LA weirdos. And there's somebody practicing magic, and there's somebody doing a photo shoot. There's always somebody shooting headshots. Yeah,
fight classes always.
Yeah,
there was a girl there last week. I was slacklining, and she is clearly just going through something because she was very emotional, and she was singing a Pocahontas song at the top of her lungs. And I literally look at this girl standing in tree pose, like a yoga tree pose.
Right.
Like, have you ever heard the wolf cry to the blue moon? Screaming it at the sky. And I was like, oh, this bitch is in it right now. I love this. Like, that's great. I love the LA weirdos, man. I do. I'm one of them. So,
well, speaking of LA weirdos, Alex, I really, really enjoy chatting with me today. You got so much stuff out there into the world. You've got your special, When Does the Club Shut? Which is part stand-up, but it's almost like a docu stand-up special.
Yeah, very much so.
And that's available on your YouTube, which is youtube.com/cravecomedy. You've got your album, Hug, Drugs, and Pugs, which is fantastic. That's available on Spotify, Apple Music. And you've also got your podcast, which if people like this show, then you're going to love Achilles' Heel. You can find that wherever you get podcasts. It's a great show. It's a, not wildly dissimilar format from what we do here, and it is a fantastic show. Great guest. You're about 50 episodes deep on that, I think. 50 somewhere. Oh shit, you're already. All right. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry about that fucking malfunction at the junction there. But you've also got a brand new book, Roast Yourself to Happiness.
Yes, I do.
That just came out. I don't know when people are going to hear this. This is going to be out in weeks from now. But this just came out. This just came out days ago from the point of us recording this.
Correct. So so the Kindle version drops on January 29th. So on Friday, the paperback version is out right now on Amazon. And this was a project that literally came together in 2 months. Started writing it on December 1st. Had the idea late November because we were in lockdown again, and I knew I wasn't going to have any stand-up. I had to figure out a way to something to do with my time. So I ended up writing this self-help workbook about where I teach you how to write roast jokes and brutalize yourself. So you take all the power away from other people and their judgments, and you own whatever it is you are. So yeah, it's a comedian's guide to finding joy by embracing your flaws. And I teach you how to tear yourself down, build yourself up, and live a much more fruitful life.
Oh shit! I love this. I absolutely love this.
Super excited about it. It's been really fun watching it go into the world. Like, I mean, a bunch of people have sent me pictures of themselves holding it, but I'm really excited for when people start going through the actual process, because every day is filled with concepts and ideas for you to just live a better life. But then there's also exercises and activities to go along with it to really implement the ideas as well. And a lot of it, you know, I wrote this for a self-help book for a person that would never, ever want to read a self-help book, because so much of them, the language is just so complicated and they're trying to be so beautiful and ethereal that honestly, it just kind of goes in one ear and out the other. And you have to read the same line like 9 times to understand what they're trying to get into you.
Oh man,
and it's annoying.
So one of my gigs in 2020 was recording a voiceover for self-help book summaries.
Oh wow.
So not even the book. It's not even like the audio book. It's essentially Cliff Notes, but for self-help books. And I would sit here and I would just by myself just re-recording these and the people that, you know, they would write summaries of each chapter, and I would read. At this point, I have read a summary of every self-help book ever made. And let me, I'm not exaggerating. There's only been 3 books ever written. Okay, there's only 3 self-help books. I know that there's a million of them on the market, but there are really only 3, and they all say the exact same things in the exact same weird, heady way. All you have to do is just add ness or brain to be the beginning of end of any word. It's like the problem is your mindness.
Right, my pain body is
my pain body or my pain brain. Like, they're all the same. So this one is wildly different. So I'm very excited that there is a different self-help book on the market. Because man, that market is flooded with a bunch of not. Listen, if you read self-help books, I'm not taking anything away from that. Please enjoy those if you're listening.
That's why I wrote one. What I realized is that everybody is basically rehashing the same points again and again and again. And any person that writes a self-help book has read a ton of self-help books, and they're just taking a collection of the ideas that they learned and putting them in their own words. But what I realized is, like, I've never actually read one that's legitimately funny. Like, some of them try to be clever and try to be cute and maybe just say fuck a lot, which is a thing that I really can't. I mean, like, literally they just say fuck to say the word, acting like they're putting humor in it. And I was like, no, I'm going to write jokes. I'm going to make sure that this is an entertaining read, and that when you walk away from it, the ideas will, because you're laughing, because you want to read it, hopefully the ideas will actually cement themselves into your brain a little bit too. But no matter what, I made sure that anyone who's never read a self-help book would read this and go, oh, I get this. I'm not bored. And I want to keep actually reading it and doing the activities to really try to see what happens if I end up on the other side.
You know, what's really interesting about what you just said is that think about some of your favorite movies, even if they're dramatic, you remember the jokes. You remember the funny lines. Those are the things that stick with you. So apply, it makes perfect sense why, you know, dropping a little bit of mental health knowledge via comedy is going to be much easier to not just digest, but to hang on to. It'll stick with you for much longer. But
exactly. And we put this trigger warning right on the back. So we showed this to a proofreader and she's like, this needs a trigger warning. Like, you're going to upset people if you don't. So we put a trigger warning. It says, this book contains foul language, sexual innuendos, jokes about sensitive subjects, disturbing imagery, and hilarious analogies. It is not recommended for those who are easily triggered, readily offended, the faint of heart, or Scientologists. It says it right
Fantastic.
there, everybody.
So once again, that is Roast Yourself to Happiness. Get it on. It's Amazon is your primary distribution at this point?
We self-published on Amazon. So
awesome.
That's the only way to get it right now. The Kindle's only $5. The paperback's only $18. So it's not expensive, and you can write all over this book. There's lines to write in it and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm excited to break into this category and start using
awesome.
all the self-help inspirational things that I've learned from Achilles heel and from all these books and just living life in general and trying to just spread them out there. I'm a hooper spreader.
He is definitely a super spreader of the hoop. Of the hair puffs, thanks again, Alex. This was a really enjoyable conversation. I feel like we need to do this again because I feel like we barely scratched the surface. We talked about everything that's happening now. We barely went to the past, so we definitely need to do this again. Again, follow Alex on all social media at Hooper Hair Puff. By the way, I feel like every man in quarantine is like slowly starting to adapt the Hooper hair puff lifestyle. As far as
funny.
hair
I just got
considered.
mine cut, dude. I was just on the road in Colorado Springs, and I got like 4 inches cut off of my hair because it was just getting so out of control.
It's so insane. Well, yeah, listen, just because your neighbor looks like this in quarantine doesn't mean that they're an OG. Alex Hooper is the OG at Hooper Hair Puff on all social media. If you want to support the show, do us a favor. Head on over to elaboratepod.com, grab yourself some merch. Follow the show on all social media at elaboratepod. I'll actually try to use it this time, guys. I know during the first collection of episodes, I would say it at the end of every show, and I'm just not a social media person. We talked about that. We don't have the same paths, but we're working on it. At elaboratepod on social media, and also the website is where you get merch. Also, there's a Discord now for Dragon Wagon Radio with a channel just for the show. So if you want to join the conversation, you can find the link to Discord at elaboratepod.com. Follow me at Jake Lloyd Bacon on Twitter and Instagram, and check out my debut feature film, Pinch, available now, also self-published on Amazon. So grab yourself Alex's book and then watch a movie. This has been a blast. Again, Alex, thank you so much for coming. I got to say to everybody, as I always do, please, I beg you, be an artist, not an influencer. Create art, not content. Alex, I love you.
Love you too, man. Thanks for having me.
Internet! I'm Coy Jandro, a Bostonian who loves pop culture, comic books, and people. And I host Coycast. It's a podcast about all those things. If it fits in on a con floor, we talk about it on Coycast. Myself and producer Jake do previews, reviews, deep dives, and tinfoil hat theories about everything from movies, TV, and the comic books themselves. I also like to dish out comic recommendations from my 100-plus pull list a week so you know what's best to buy. So join us, True Believer, on Coycast.com or wherever you're listening to this podcast right now.
Dragon Wagon.